Here we go. You made it to Friday. Things are looking up. Baseball comes to an agreement. Longhorns do not fare well in the Big 12 tournament. And Antonio Brown has cited a team he would like to go to in the National Football League. Some of the things we're going to get to, lots to cover on a Football Friday. We designate every Friday a Football Friday, the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok is your Soundscape Stylist. And Shannon, I'm listening to that show before us. Two pros and a cup of Joe. I always stumble on the name. They're calling it Football Friday. Hey, man, that's our thing. Now people are going to go, oh, you're calling it Football Friday because, that show. No, we've been calling it Football Friday during football season and beyond football season. So, Shannon, I just don't want to be called derivative when we're not derivative.
Listen, I'm not surprised. We're creative geniuses here, and it's not surprising that others have picked it up and taken it. It's not our fault. We're not on a national platform in the way that they are. So it's unfortunate for us that we're now looked at as second fiddler here. But make no mistake, we are the co-founders and creators of Football Friday.
Thank you, especially in the off season when other people think, well, football season's over. No, it's not. Now, in a moment, Shannon, we're going to talk with our baseball go-to guy, SCOTT MANDZIARA. Baseball comes to an agreement. We now know opening day for Major League Baseball will be April 7th. They're going to play a full 162. Your thoughts about that?
It's exciting, especially, we talked earlier in the week about how they had meetings late into the night, and we thought, all right, we're making some progress here. And then after that late meeting, because it seemed like things were going well, the conversation was, okay, we're not going to push the season back any further. 24 hours later, we hear that the opening date's going to be moved back once again. More series are going to be lost for Major League Baseball. But here we are today. Crazy what can go down in just 1 week. And we've got baseball beginning April 7th. I'm very excited.
Well, you're very excited. I'm very excited. I'm sure Jeremy will talk to him coming up as well. But a guy who has got to be very excited is our baseball go-to guy, St. Louis broadcaster, a one-time San Antonio broadcaster. He was the voice of the University of the Incarnate Word Athletics and also did some time on this show as well. We love talking all sports with him, but he has a passion for and a knowledge for baseball. The one and only SCOTT MANDZIARA. Scott, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, baby. Spring training starts today. Let's go.
This was getting scary. We talked to you, a couple of weeks ago, less than that, but, you were confident at that deadline. You said the deal will get done. Very Red McCombs like of you. I was feeling good and confident. Then it didn't get done. And then this week, negotiations were going till like 2:30 in the morning. Things weren't happening. More games were getting canceled. What do you think was the turning point in negotiations yesterday?
Now, this is going to sound shocking, but I really believe the owners wanted to play ball. And I didn't think we were going to get to that point. I did not expect that happening. We talked last time, and it was like, oh, these owners are greedy. They're billionaires. They're fighting over a couple of $1 million to get the players fair. But they actually made a fair offer. And so that's why I thought I was so frustrated, a couple of days ago when they all of a sudden threw the international draft in there. And that's a whole new can of worms, which is why they didn't take it the night before when the apparent second deadline was. And they ended up being able to kind of push it off to allow for more talking. But I think that was really what it came down to, is the players stayed true and said, hey, we're not budging for anything. And the owners actually started to come towards the players because I think they realized no matter how many public appearances they tried to make to where it was spitting off like, oh, the players don't want to play. Like, the media did a really good job of supporting the players in this situation too, because they all were posting about like, hey, these deadlines are obviously not real since we're still playing 162 games. Like, it was much different, 6 or 7 years ago when social media wasn't as popular as it is now. I think that helped a lot in all these conversations and allowing fans to kind of really understand what was going on in the negotiations.
So with that being said, Scott, and with the deal being done, when you look at it from the two different sides, who do you think won in this deal overall?
That's a great question, Shannon. I think I would say the players won, and not because they got the deal exactly what they wanted, but they got a lot of improvements. I mean, the CBT was the biggest deal on this entire bill, and they got the owners to move up 9%. I mean, that is a lot of money when you're talking about how much the owners were gonna go. And when we talked last week or the week before, they were gung ho, $220 million. This is the best offer you're gonna get. 162 games. Let's sign it right now. And I said where they're gonna get the deal done. And what they do? They went up 10 more million to 230. And here's the reason why it's important to like the fans that are listening that don't really understand all the collective bargaining taxes. So when a team is going to spend money, if it's $220 million, the Steve Cohens and the Yankees, they can spend up to $220 million, and then after that, they get taxed. So they don't really have a whole lot of incentive to pay the players more. This is why it matters to the players. So now all of a sudden, with 230, the Max Scherzers of the world, the Carlos Correas, instead of getting, quote unquote capped at 220, now it goes up 10 more million. So those guys can get more money, but not only those guys, those young players that are coming up, instead of, only getting like, the cream of the crop on their first deal, they're going to get more money. So that's why the players want this, and they're so passionate about it, because they want these owners that have the money to spend it and not get heavily taxed on it. They don't want that to be an excuse.
Our baseball guru, SCOTT MANDZIARA, talking with us as we celebrate the end of the lockout after 99 days and the agreement that was reached yesterday in Major League Baseball. And Scott, a couple of things that I learned as well that I know you're aware of, but I'm thankful. Two things that during the pandemic I was not a fan of. Number one was the second game of a doubleheader only going 7 innings. Baseball is so traditional for purists, and I get it. It should be based on its history. So we do away with that, and we do away with what I thought was the ridiculous. We go to extra innings and we put a base runner on second base who did not get there on his own accord. Your thoughts on returning to a little bit of that normalcy in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I'm really thrilled with those too, Chris. Those were kind of moves that I'm like, okay, like MLB actually decided to try something different, but they did not go well. I didn't think it was not, part of the game 7 innings. It was just odd. I mean, from a fan's perspective, they probably liked it. And, selfishly in a weird knockout season, like it was fine for me, but the fact that they're not going to do it moving forward, I'm very pleased with. The other thing that they're changing though, Chris, the universal DH, it's here and it's not going anywhere. So I know it's not, a big change for, you guys being, AL fans with the Astros, but, here in St. Louis, the NL, it's like, whoa, like we're not going to see a pitcher bat anymore. Like this is going to be really cool. I really supported that idea.
Well, Scott, you mentioned the Astros, and the second this agreement was announced, many Astros fans were talking about Carlos Correa. He was immediately trending on Twitter. How quickly do you think we'll see him make a move, whether it is to stay with the Astros or to go elsewhere? Because as you said, spring training is starting and the season now has a start date.
Well, here's what's crazy, guys, and you guys know it very well being in the sports radio biz. It's tough that this whole thing is starting Friday because I think today is going to be nuts. And I know your show ends here in a couple of hours because Saturday and Sunday is going to be nuts. Then you got to wait until Monday to talk about it. I think Carlos Correa will be signed by Monday, so you're going to have some news to talk about. But I think free agency is going to be crazy because here's the thing, guys. This is what so many people forget. Chris, you mentioned it, 99 days of a lockout. So these owners, these GMs, allegedly, were not allowed to talk to their own players. So they have no idea where the team stands. Like the last 100 days, did Justin Verlander, go on a bender and drink a bunch of beer and have the beer belly and he's not ready to pitch? They don't know. Like, were they checking his Instagram to see if he was still fit? Like, it's a whole new world out there. So there could be situations where teams think that they have, a depth in their bullpen, and all of a sudden they got arms that aren't ready, and they don't have enough time to really see in spring training how they look. They got to kind of go on like, hey, are you good or not? Like, what's the situation? And the other big thing is now with only 13 arms in the pitching staff, the way that managers are going to have to manage games is going to be so important, because you have one less arm out in the pen to be able to put into the game. With 162 games, and we're going to have doubleheaders, I mean, it's going to make managing a lot more tough.
He is Scott Mandziara. We are talking baseball as an agreement was reached last night. Opening day will be April 7th. And Scott, I hope everybody paid attention to what you just said, that beginning today, as the sun rises, things are going to be fast and furious in Major League Baseball. Obviously, as Shannon mentions, I think Astros fans and fans across Major League Baseball want to see what happens with Carlos Correa. But, you've got Freddie Freeman, you've got Chris Bryant, and I learned this morning, Scott, 139 Major League Baseball free agents at this moment without a team. But, I mean, most of those guys, I guess, Scott, do you expect most of those 139 players are going to find a team over this weekend?
Ooh, man, I mean, a lot of them are. There's a big difference though with them being 139 total free agents, because unfortunately when a year comes around, not everybody gets to sign with a team. Not everyone's talented enough, or not everybody's wanted immediately. Those big five that you were mentioning, adding Trevor Story to that mix too. He's a big target for the St. Louis Cardinals right now that I've been following. I think a lot of those guys do, because here's the thing. We talked about this last time. How long do you want to play the negotiation game? And for those agents that have Scott Boras, I'm happy for you, and I feel bad for you, because I don't think those guys are going to sign quick, just from Scott Boras' track record of wanting to get every single nickel and dime out of teams. Makes it a lot more difficult to put together a contract. But the market's going to fall as soon as Freddie Freeman signs, Correa signs, because if any of those guys are the first to sign and it's a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract, you're going to see all of them sign for 1 or 2 year contracts, is my guess. And that's going to be crazy, because they might not end up with teams that we thought they'd end up with.
Finally, Scott, I'm sure we'll talk to you before or, right as opening day is upon us, but who's the team to beat? Who's the team to watch? I mean, is it the usual suspects, or do you see a team emerging out there perhaps that was not on the radar, was not, your typical Dodgers, Yankees, Braves? Who do you like this year?
Hey, how awesome is it that we're getting to talk about who we want to win the World Series this year? How awesome is that? It's been so long since we've gotten to talk about this. It makes me so pumped. Last year, no one really saw the Braves come in as a perennial powerhouse. They were always good. It was always the pitching staff, and I don't think many people believed in. So this year, there is a dark horse team that I really want to follow, and they're in a tough division, but the division's kind of down. I kind of like the Toronto Blue Jays. I really like what they've done. They have a young core. I wouldn't be surprised if they went out and spent more money and tried to get one of those top 5 free agents. They got their pitching improvements. They didn't make the playoffs somehow at 91 wins last year, which was absolutely ludicrous. So, I mean, this is a really good team in a really, really tough division. I think the Blue Jays make the next step this year, and they're definitely my team to watch, and they are so much fun if you get a chance to watch them.
That's a great tip, and we'll keep an eye on the Toronto Blue Jays. And Scott Mandziara, we appreciate your availability here the morning after this big news broke in baseball. We love talking baseball with you. And again, as I mentioned, I want to grab you certainly before April 7th opening day and throughout baseball season as well. You're a tremendous resource in all sports, but man, your passion for baseball just oozes through the speakers of the microphone of the radio, man. We love it. Scott Mandziara, have yourself a great weekend, and go Astros. Go sign Carlos Correa.
I love it, Chris. It's like Christmas morning here, man. We got an inch of snow here in St. Louis. I swear that's what I'm waking up to, which is crazy. But I'm ready for baseball to be back. So, anytime you need me, you give me a call, all right?
Thank you so much. Thanks, Scott. Scott Mandziara on Twitter, a great follow at SMandziara2. And Shannon, he buried the lead. He just mentioned on the way out the door, an inch of snow in St. Louis on March 11th. I mean, it's rainy and going to get cold here in Central and South Texas today, but I'm glad we're not dealing with snow at this point.
Thank goodness for that. I can handle rain. I can drive in rain.
Yes. Yeah, and it looks like the weather's going to be weird for the next few days. If we can make it apparently through this weekend, next week, I see a lot of temperatures in the forecast in the afternoons in the 80s. So once that time change happens, by the way, that's going to be 2 a.m. Sunday morning for daylight saving time. Looks like things might get better weather-wise. We got so much to talk about. Coach A, Paul Alexander. We'll talk all things sports, baseball, football, and more with him at the top of the hour. Coming up, your high five play of the day. Beautiful music, perfect tune being played by, and we'll talk to him, your Soundscape Stylist Jeremy Kolok. Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Your comments along the way. We'll talk at you as well. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Gordon is in snow country this morning. Hey, Gordon. Let's see. Let me take that down for a moment. And all right, let's see who's here. Good morning, Beth Settle, Tracy Bogert, Anthony Del Toro, Hector Gomez, Jason Paniagua, Luisa Alanis, Gordon Weedman in Frisco, Colorado this morning. Carl Fisher, Jesse Bratton, Sam Tobias, Taro Kotani is final full day in San Antonio. Wes Perkins says he prays that Taro gets to see the victory tonight for Greg Popovich. Lucinda Sullivan with coffee emoji and sunshine emoji. Will we see the sun? It was raining when I was driving into work today. All right, I got to run out the door for a sec. I'm going to get some coffee. And I will be back here in about 90 seconds. Let you enjoy our lovely Soundscape stylist, Jeremy Kolok, making the show go. All right, let's see here. Tracy Bogert with an early comment. That's from near the top of the hour. He heard some national radio guys talking about standouts at the combine, and Tariq Woolen of UTSA. 3 minutes. That's outstanding that he made that kind of an impression. All right, here. Yeah, Carl, we're probably going to play some James Earl Jones from Field of Dreams at this point. Probably top of the 8 o'clock hour, the baseball speech by James Earl Jones, a.k.a. Terrence Mann, author of The Boat Rocker. What is up, Kevin Monk? Welcome in, Kevin. Got my coffee going. Yeah, it's a tremendous speech. Figure this is a good day for it. Probably run it again on opening day. Got to figure out what day is the 7th of April. Where's my calendar on my, here it is. April. That is a Thursday. Good. Thought it would be a weekday. So we can celebrate that here on the show. It's a beautiful thing. We're the poll question today, and we'll talk about this on the air. What night will Coach Greg Popovich set the record? Will it be tonight against the Jazz, tomorrow night against the Pacers, Monday against the Timberwolves, or other? And you can tell us when, but we'll get into that coming up here. Going to mute this a moment for our evil overlords at Facebook. Welcome in on a football Friday. That's right. We said it. It is a football Friday. Football season never ends, even though we recognize other seasons simultaneously. Baseball season, we now know, will officially get underway. Opening day, April 7th. That is a Thursday. So we will be celebrating it on this show and on that show on that Thursday. So that'll be a lot of fun. Coming up, Coach A, Paul Alexander. Love having him on the show. His thoughts on the return of baseball. We'll certainly talk football. Got a feeling he'll have an opinion or two on the Jerry Jones scandal. So we will get into all of that. 7 o'clock hour as well. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays. You are invited to join us in a variety of ways. You can do it the old-fashioned way. Dial us up on the phone lines and talk to us. 800-707-9760. We've been talking to you about that amazing new talkback feature on the free iHeart Radio app. You go to either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760 on the app. You'll see a little red microphone button as you listen to us. You can talk back to us and send it to us instantly. We'll probably play that on the air, which is cool. And as always, we've got live video going. The live video feed, you can get to it from Facebook Live. You can get to it from Twitter. And you can get to it from YouTube. Lots of people in there. I see Gordon Weedman is in Frisco, Colorado this morning, where there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, and it is 18 degrees. So I shouldn't be complaining about this weather. Taro Kotani.
Rockies.
Exactly. Taro Kotani. By the way, Shannon, and we'll get into it as well, as I wear my In Pop We Trust cap. Greg Popovich again tonight as the Spurs host the Utah Jazz with another opportunity to get the record from Don Nelson for all-time regular season wins in the NBA. But Shannon, this is the final night that our good friend Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan, will be in attendance. His flight leaves at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So the Spurs and Pop need to win one for Taro tonight.
Yeah, don't do it for Pop. Don't do it for your season record. Do it for Taro.
Do it for Taro.
Do it.
In Taro we trust. Maybe I'll get a new hat.
There you go.
There you go. All right. Paul Alexander at the top of the hour, but right now let's do this thing. How about the high five play of the day? We do it every morning at this time because we should. And it is appropriately sponsored by High Five. 2 locations in the Austin area. Shannon, you know all about High Five. Tell the people what they will find when they go to High Five.
Well, High Five is the leader in the Austin area for entertainment, food, and fun. And they're innovative as well. Chris, we talk a lot about axe throwing. And most places you go throw an axe, it's just a wooden board with a target on it. And that's totally fine and dandy. I mean, you're still throwing an axe. That's pretty badass. But out at that Lakeway location of High Five, they have taken it to the next level and have added a digital element to axe throwing. So now there are projector screens that can project different things. So you could play some tic-tac-toe while throwing axes. You can select different types of targets and things to throw to create more fun for yourself, your family, your friends. So make sure you check out axe throwing at the Lakeway location. Or if you're in central Austin, check out the High Five location on Anderson Lane. Again, great food, great drinks, and just great times overall. Chris, today's High Five goes to Steph Curry because once again, he's making kids cry. And I know when I say that, you think, well, that doesn't sound High Five worthy. but this girl he made cry earlier in the week because he did not travel with the Golden State Warriors to Denver to take on the Denver Nuggets because of scheduling that had been rearranged due to a canceled game prior in the season. A lot of players didn't travel. Steph Curry just happened to be one of them. This young girl showed up with a sign. She and her family had saved pennies so they could sit close to the court. For 3 years they had been saving. She appears. She's got the entire garb on. She's so excited to see Steph Curry, and he's not there, and she is just brought to tears. Well, an executive for the Golden State Warriors promised that family that they would be back in attendance on Thursday for the Golden State Warriors game once again against the Denver Nuggets, this time with Steph Curry and company in tow. And Steph Curry showed up and showed out. Not only did the Warriors win 113-102 and 34 points in 38 minutes, so he put on a show for her, but her and her family's seats were on the baseline, and so during shoot-around, Steph Curry came over. She immediately went into tears as she realized her idol was face-to-face with her. He signed her poster. He gave her a hug. He took a picture, and he apologized for not being in the house earlier in the week. Listen, unfortunately, with so many athletes, not all of them get it. You wish they would, but a lot of them just don't. And I think Steph Curry, one of the reasons why he's so beloved, even if you don't like his shimmy and his shake on the court, what makes it hard not to like the guy is that he gets it. He gets it when he's on the court for the fans, and he gets it when he's off the court, and he realized the impact that he has. I mean, look, he made a girl cry twice in 1 week. On different spectrums, right? The ultimate sadness, and then just, I mean, her life has been forever changed and touched by one Steph Curry. So a high five to him and the Golden State Warriors for bringing that family back for round 2 of the Warriors versus the Nuggets to make it happen.
Wow, Shannon, and I am a guy who is vocally, I don't like Steph Curry's little shimmy. I don't like the chewing on the mouthpiece. The whole beat your chest, dig me. And I guess, I'm an old school Greg Popovich, Spurs, Tom Landry, act like you've been there, do your job. Your job is to make baskets and win games. But again, I've changed before. I rethought Tom Brady. I became a fan. I forgave Kawhi Leonard. I no longer hold any ill will toward Kawhi Leonard. And if Steph Curry continues to do things like this, make a young girl's day, if not year, and as you mentioned, a lifelong memory for her and her family. I mean, that's just cool. And just, and I may have to get over and part of it, and I realized it was the Warriors who were like beating the Spurs. When the Warriors dynasty emerged, we still had Tim, Tony, and Manu. So I guess part of my angst and my dislike stems from that. But no, very, very cool. I gotta give it up for Steph Curry, and I'll try not to cringe as much when he chews on his mouthpiece like a ragamuffin.
What do you think of his Subway commercials? Because he was kind of in them during the football season. But it also featured like Serena Williams and Tom Brady and a bunch of other people. But now that it's primarily focused on NBA basketball season, there's one that just features Steph Curry, and I see it a lot on the 4-Letter Network.
I haven't seen it. What does he do in that? I haven't seen it yet.
What does
he do in that commercial?
Not to like pimp Subway, but I guess they have a new meat that is available for your sandwiches that's Italian. And so he talks about his love of Italian food and his love for Subway and the two coming together, and he's walking around talking about it.
Isn't his wife like some kind of a chef? Is that part of his wife's thing?
Chef Curry. Whipping it up in the kitchen.
Okay, so.
I wonder if she eats Subway.
So yeah, so what?
Why is she not making him sandwiches? Do your job.
Good question.
Wife of Steph Curry.
Very good question.
Hell, I don't know.
Gosh.
Now, while I changed my opinion on Tom Brady, didn't used to like him, was just tired of it. They would always win, pretty boy, getting all the rings, married to Giselle. I get it. And then, he got old. And I said, okay, well, I got that in common with Tom Brady. So I started pulling for the old guy. I've forgiven Kawhi Leonard, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I may be turning the corner on Steph Curry. But Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, should I rethink Antonio Brown AB is ready to return to the National Football League.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
He is now quoted as saying, quote, maybe Jerry Jones thinks it's sexy that I'm putting out all this encouragement and motivation. Maybe he want to sign someone with that energy, end quote.
No.
Now, at first blush, Shannon, and maybe at second and 51st blush, it sounds like a horrible idea. And Antonio Brown is nothing but a train wreck and a bunch of problems. But I was listening to LeVar Arrington again on the show before us, Two Pros and a Cup of Joe. He was making the case for it. He was saying it would be very little risk for the Cowboys. You know, they're releasing Amari Cooper. He said, if you look at the Cowboys' history, Greg Hardy seemed untouchable by a lot of people, and Jerry went and signed him. Terrell Owens had all kinds of problems. I mean, nobody's had the problems like Antonio Brown, at least behaviorally, in the locker room and on a team. Obviously, Greg Hardy was a criminal and a brutal man who assaulted a woman horribly, and I don't think should have ever been allowed back into the league. But Jerry Jones likes shiny objects, and now maybe Jerry Jones wants to deflect some of the attention from the Jerry Jones scandal. We're going to have to put this question to Coach A, Paul Alexander, at the top of the hour, Shannon. But how would you, as a huge Cowboy fan that you are, like to see Mr. Antonio Brown in a Cowboys jersey this season?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, I might just, like my Bills fandom might be the only fandom I have next season if Antonio Brown appears in a Cowboys jersey. Are you kidding me? And the thought that like, oh, he wouldn't be a distraction, is that because you're comparing it to the current distractions, which are ginormous for the Dallas Cowboys, and they're all off the field stuff? And also, like, we talk about Zeke Elliott, and yes, he hasn't been as efficient in the run game, but he's become a great passer, but he's also become a better teammate, right? He's keeping himself in shape. He's keeping himself in check. We don't hear the nonsense stories of what he may be doing outside of the football practice facilities during the offseason and during the season. And I think a lot of that has to do with Dak and him reeling him in. If you bring a guy like Antonio Brown around Zeke, who is still very impressionable, you are ruining the dynamic that I think is held together like glue right now for that Dallas offensive side of the ball. And to bring that in and just, I mean, he is a disruptor in all of the wrong ways. You don't bring him in. You don't even pick up the phone, Jerry. Don't do it. I know that's what he wants you to do. And I know it may seem fun and it may seem like a distraction right now that you probably need given everything else going on in the PR world of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. But no, sir. Do not.
I take that as a hard no.
Hard pass.
One of the hardest no's, a hard pass from Shannon. Jeremy Kolok, we say hello to you this morning already in the first 49 minutes of the show, doing an exceptional job as you always do. You are a huge Cowboys fan. You were there the last game of the regular season in this year, 2022, watching the Cowboys lose to the Arizona Cardinals. What do you say? Antonio Brown, should Jerry Jones and the Cowboys sign him? And if so, would you buy the jersey?
No.
I would not buy the jersey if it were, because when you said it and you said that they were talking about on two bros in a cup of Joe.
Yes.
Yeah. When you really started to put it together, it's like, okay, well, I could see the Cowboys, like, if anybody was to do this, I could see it, but no, thank you. I mean, just, simple as that. No, thank you. We got other things going on around the Cowboys realm right now that I think we've got to deal with first. But no, thank you. Simple as that. No disrespect to that man and his football ability, but just no, thank you.
Yeah, he is quite the
all the disrespect
like
from me. It's just, we don't want you in the league. We certainly don't want you on the Cowboys.
Yeah. That last thing he pulled, leaving that game in the middle of a game. When you quit on your teammates, and even though I've forgiven him now, Kawhi Leonard, that was there's one thing you just should not do in sports and in life is quit on your teammates when they're depending on you. And we certainly saw Antonio Brown do that. I can't imagine, but I mean, after each stop, he continues to get people to sign him, but I can't imagine an NFL team taking a shot at that guy. But the case that LeVar Arrington was making, among other things, and Jeremy said it just now as well, if any team was going to do it, it might be the Dallas Cowboys, because, Jerry Jones likes him some publicity and shiny objects. And again, maybe he wants to deflect from the last two horrible scandals, the cheerleader scandal and now the Jerry Jones love child scandal. So going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Jerry, please don't. Just be smarter than that. Have smarter people around you. Fix what's already in front of you before you bring in another problem. How about that?
I'm Jerry Jones.
And I made poor decisions.
Thank you, Jerry. And once again, Jerry Jones is lying low. Now, there was, and I know we're up against it, there was some Cowboys news involving Jerry Jones. Shannon, as you know, somebody very close to him had passed away. So it's sad that no matter what you think about him, what he's going through right now, he had some sad news come his way, and that whole Cowboys organization yesterday.
Yes, as a longtime assistant, Marilyn Love, who was like a day one Cowboy member, part of that organization. Jerry and family said Deion Sanders said it best, the Hall of Fame acceptance speech. Marilyn covering for Jerry was the greatest cover corner in the NFL. And you'd think Jerry could use her right now, maybe more than ever.
My goodness. And a lot of people don't like Jerry Jones, but from his perspective, man, what an awful week on and what an awful start to 2022 on so many levels. Coming up, Coach A, Paul Alexander. We'll talk all things football, all things Cowboys with Paul Alexander. Little Jerry Jones, I'm sure, will come up. And baseball. Baseball has come to an agreement, and baseball will be back with opening day, now scheduled for the 7th of April. Paul Alexander is next. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Let me see here. I have to shoot a short video. Okay, I can do that. Mike Brown, good morning. In Pop We Trust. Thank you, Mike. I got the hat. I really want it to happen tonight just because it's overdue. I want to see it. And Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan. It's his last game this go-round, is 17th in San Antonio. So come on. Come on, Pop. Woo! All right, let's see this thing. Gonna do that, gonna do that. Flip that. All right. Jason, we did have some San Antonio polar bear action yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. I posted it on Facebook. But yeah, we might have to go into that water. Notice I'm often the video guy and not the guy going into the pool, which tends to be Steve DeRocco. All right. Yeah, the Spurs, if that's your comment, time to make a push for the Spurs. Yeah. 17 games left, or are we down to 16? Let me do some math here. I think we're at 17. We may be down to 16. And 2 games out last time I checked. So, okay, let's see. 2 games behind the Pelicans, who are in the 10 slot. They have 25 plus 41. So they have played 66 games. So, yes, 16 games left. My brain doesn't do math well this time of morning without a calculator, or pretty much any time of morning without a calculator. So, yeah, 16 games to play, 2 games behind the Pelicans, who were in the 10 slot, 3.5 games behind the Lakers. So that win over the Lakers the other day helped them. Portland's got a half game ahead of the Spurs. So, you'd have to leapfrog Portland and the Pelicans. But CJ McCollum, now with the Pelicans, has been playing well, and they've been playing well. Carl Fisher, I like your optimism. Yeah, I think they can do it. It's like every time they get a win like that Laker win, and then they, the 4-4 on the rodeo road trip, I thought that was turning the corner. Every time I think they're about to make a move and win a few in a row, then it kind of goes south. Okay, I've got to edit this. Find my Paul Alexander. photo. Here it comes. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night.
Good morning, Steve DeRocco.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a football Friday, and oh my goodness, so many developments in the world of football throughout this week, and nobody better to talk about those than our next guest. And of course, yesterday we learned that baseball has come to an agreement, and baseball will begin its regular season on opening day now, April 7th. We talk all things football. We get a reaction about baseball. And of course, the Jerry Jones scandal shall be discussed. He is one of our all-time favorites, and he has done it all in the world of broadcasting on every level, as an anchor, as a host, as an executive, television and radio, and now just has one of the greatest websites, just tremendous thought-provoking opinion and entertainment as well at his website. I highly recommend it, radicallyrational.com. Coach A, Paul Alexander, how are you this morning?
Chris, good morning. I'm fine. And you know that old toast, may we live in interesting times. Well, we certainly live in interesting times.
Oh, my goodness. And I saw your video yesterday on radicallyrational.com, and you posed the question and the prospect. Either we're going to come out of this with a much better, more utopian world, or we're on the way to World War III. And man, it sure does seem like those are two ways that this train could go. But regarding the world of sports, Paul, so much going on in the National Football League, all of the quarterback movement. We will get to baseball, but I think I got to start with Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys with you. You have been very vocal and I would say critical now and then regarding Jerry Jones. If you thought the cheerleader scandal with Rich Dalrymple videoing cheerleaders changing clothes without their knowledge was bad news, we get another one this week. Jerry Jones, a 25-year-old woman who doesn't seem to just be, somebody trying to make a splash here. She works for a congressman. She's a congressional aide. She seems quite credible, saying she is the daughter of Jerry Jones and that Jerry paid her mother a lot of money to be quiet all those years ago. Your thoughts on the latest Cowboys scandal and this one being a Jerry Jones scandal?
Well, you know what the Cowboys call Voyeur-gate these days? They call it the good old days. Look, I don't even know where to start. I mean, obviously this is a public story now, and it's got the titillation factor, but I want to be mindful of the fact that it involves human beings, and although the story is a public one, the interpersonal part of this is private, and I'm going to respect that. And so any commentary that I have is going to be on how this affects the football operation. And once again, Cowboy fans want to know why that team has not been to a Super Bowl in a quarter century. And they want to, make themselves feel better. Well, we're still America's team, whatever that means. We still lead the league in merchandise sales. Really? You're that pitiful? You're that pathetic? That's what passes for football success to you now? But the reason is because there's always a distraction. There is always something to take the focus off of football. As Rosanna Dana once said, it's always something. And it's always some kind of primetime soap opera like the old show, Dallas. And here we go again. They had an opportunity to not just get to a Super Bowl last year, they had an opportunity to win it. And they blew it for a lot of reasons. Now they're in a situation where they're not going to have as good a roster next year as they had last year. There's a lot of football work to be done here. They are in cap hell. They have some really tough decisions to make with respect to personnel and free agency and the draft. And now you got this. And, it was interesting. We saw the story, Chris, that Jerry was not at the combine, and we were told it was for medical reasons. Well, I bet seeing that cloud out there on the horizon could give you some medical problems. This isn't going to happen, but in a perfect world, Jerry Jones is 79 years old. Throw the keys to Stephen. It's still got your name on the office door. You're still the titular owner. Throw the keys to Stephen and get out of the way.
Coach, wanted to get your thoughts on, with all of this kind of surrounding the Dallas Cowboys, the only real story football-wise to come out of the organization this week was the tagging of Dalton Schultz, the tight end. Lots of other guys potentially going to be on the move for the Dallas Cowboys, maybe Amari Cooper being one of the top names. But where do you think the team should go now? What's the next and best move in your mind for the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, before they can start adding people, unfortunately, they're going to have to subtract people. And they've got some really difficult decisions to make. And they're desperate. And here's the thing about desperation in any business transaction. If you're trying to deal with another team and they know you're desperate, okay, it becomes a buyer's market and they control the terms. I mean, we saw a little taste of this yesterday in the NFL with respect to the Khalil Mack trade to the Chargers. I mean, Khalil Mack is a big wolf and dog. He's a great player. But when you look at the compensation that was involved there, you're just not going to get what you think you're going to get if teams sense that you are desperate and they know that you have to unload the player, that you have to get under the cap, that you have no choice. And that's why we see, in many cases, some really big name players who are still great players. And I think Khalil Mack is still a great player. I know he had some injury problems last year, but he's still a great player. But you're always going to be surprised at how little you get in exchange for them.
Paul, speaking of big name players, it kind of got a little bit lost in the shuffle this week when Seattle traded Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. But on that same day, they released linebacker Bobby Wagner. And back when Dan Quinn was a coach with the Seattle Seahawks, he said then, and he has said recently, that Bobby Wagner may be the greatest linebacker he ever coached. Last year, he was even comparing Micah Parsons to Bobby Wagner. You got a Bobby Wagner out there now looking for a team if he's as good as he once was. And Dan Quinn, certainly they know each other. Do you think he's a guy maybe the Cowboys should pursue?
I kind of go back and forth with myself on that. First of all, Bobby Wagner is a historically great linebacker. I mean, I hope people realize what a great player that guy's been. On the other hand, he is 33, and the numbers just don't lie. I mean, to a certain degree, his performance has already dropped off, and you never know at 33 when it's going to fall off the table. I do think that he would be a good influence on that team, but he may be a luxury they can't afford. And you look for leadership. Okay, Parsons is that guy. Parsons is going to be that guy. Let Micah be Micah. He's so special, I'm not sure he needs tutelage from Bobby Wagner or anybody else.
I hate that we're about to have this conversation, Coach A, but it's got to be asked. Chris and I just recently discussed it. Antonio Brown making it known that he would like Jerry Jones to give him a call because he could be an attribute to the Dallas Cowboys. It's no secret that Amari Cooper will be moving on due to that cap space that they need room for. They need all the money they can get. But please tell me that there is a guy in the draft that you think the Cowboys could get at a cheap cost and less drama to add to this offense that is already pretty high powered for the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I really want to get deeper into the wide receivers. So, maybe we can have that conversation next week when I start studying up on the receivers available in the draft. Now, there are going to be, because of cap casualties, there are going to be a lot of veteran receivers available in free agency or perhaps via trade or something like that. I mean, like a whole bunch of them. But they really better have their eyes focused on what they're going to do with that receiving core, because Amari Cooper ain't going to be there. And I don't think Cedric Wilson is either. So they got some really tough decisions to make. All the more reason why these ridiculous circus distractions are just a travesty.
Well, and, you talk about a ridiculous circus distraction with Antonio Brown. And, as soon as I heard that, Paul, of course, the first thought is not just no, but oh, hell no. But yet I'm listening to the radio show that preceded us nationally, Two Pros and a Cup of Joe, and LeVar Arrington kind of was making the case for it. He said, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, you look at their history, of signing, Greg Hardy and Terrell Owens, and you got to wonder, Jerry Jones now with two really bad stories surrounding the Cowboys. Might he want to deflect and just create another distraction over here with Antonio Brown? Do you have, as a Cowboys fan, and you are a huge Cowboy, do you have any fear that the Cowboys might actually do something like this?
Fear is exactly the right word. Yes, I do. It's so ridiculous that you shouldn't even have to entertain the thought. But citing the Cowboys' history, Chris, which you just did, even amidst all this distractions, can you see a scenario right now where at this moment over breakfast, Jerry's trying to talk Steven into this? I mean, that's not impossible. It's the worst possible thing that could happen to that team, which means they will probably entertain the thought.
Coach A, looking outside of the Dallas Cowboys, lots of movement in the NFL, especially with quarterbacks, the Packers keeping Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson moving over to the Denver Broncos, and the Colts sending Carson Wentz to the now Washington Commanders. In your mind, who are the winners and losers this week in the NFL?
Well, the Denver Broncos, for sure. I mean, that was a really bold move. As far as the Commanders are concerned, their general manager, Martin Mayhew, we were talking about this last week, said he'd canvassed the entire league. He'd gone over 40 quarterbacks. They were going to make a splash. And you come up with Carson Wentz? I mean, I'll say this for Carson Wentz. He's no Taylor Heineke, that's for sure. So I got no idea what they're doing. But as for the Broncos, that was bold. And that makes a whole lot of sense. And you see this happen all the time. You know, the Broncos change coaches. They change philosophies. Before, they had a very defensive-minded head coach, and that's the way their team played. Rock rib defense, but a very stodgy offense. Well, they got tired of that, you know, so they bring in Nathaniel Hackett, passing game guru. Hey, let's go. And that was a really, really bold move. And now you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC West, and a number of things happened here. Remember a couple of years ago when Russell Wilson got off to that just white hot start, you know, and the phrase was, let Russ cook. Well, the problem is Pete Carroll didn't want to let Russ cook. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. Pete Carroll's been an extremely successful coach, and there's a way he wants to play. And it's not throwing for 400 yards. It really isn't. It's running the rock and playing great defense. So that relationship was already getting kind of strained there. So the Broncos found themselves in a situation where they could just really swing for the fences, and I think they've done that. I mean, Russell Wilson remains a really good quarterback. I know he had injury problems this year, et cetera, but when you look at what he's accomplished, and let me say that I was mildly surprised that this happened. I really kind of thought that once again for the third straight year that Carroll and Russell Wilson would kind of keep it together. But I think that relationship finally just got too strained for sure. So, man, I don't know what Seattle is going to do at quarterback right now. Now, they did acquire all of that capital in the trade. I mean, it's almost as big as the Herschel Walker trade. And we saw what that did for the Dallas Cowboys. So that opportunity is there. But you wonder what they're going to do with respect to quarterback. I mean, the name that pops to mind is Deshaun Watson. But your move, grand jury, I mean, I don't even know how we can talk about that until and unless all of these legal and possibly criminal matters are cleared up. So certainly the Denver Broncos came out smelling like a rose, and they've got a good enough roster where they can not only compete in that division. I mean, I could envision a scenario where they could make a legitimate Super Bowl run. Now, a trade I really did like was the one we were talking about a minute ago. This thing with Khalil Mack just makes all the sense in the world. Chicago, they had an offensive coach. They bring in a defensive coach. They're going to switch from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Khalil Mack is just a classic stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker. He goes back to the Chargers, where he is reunited with Brandon Staley. That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what that does for the Chargers defense. We are talking with Coach A, Paul Alexander of RadicallyRational.com. Paul, you brought up Deshaun Watson. And again, my goodness, it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. There's going to be apparently some grand jury activity involving his case in Houston today. But I look at what happened, Paul, and we talked about it with you, with Art Briles at Grambling State, where kind of under the radar he was brought in, and Doug Williams, among others, said, "Oh no, not at my school." And that, I think, within 4 days, Art Briles was gone. I just wonder, Paul, with 22 accusers, if one of them is telling the truth, and all 22 very well may be. But if there's one woman that we learned Deshaun Watson behaved this way with, in the modern era, the post-Me Too era that we live in now, can an NFL franchise bring this guy in? I mean, he's a great quarterback, so I mean, will that tip the scale? I talked about Greg Hardy earlier, but that was almost seems like it was in another era. Do you think if we learn that Deshaun Watson did at least some of the things he's accused of with these women, is he going to be radioactive, or will he have a career still in the NFL?
You go through 32 teams in the NFL, and they're going to be varying degrees of kryptonite. There are certain markets and teams that he just can't go to. Okay, Washington at the top of the list. Okay, given what's going on in that culture, that just isn't happening. I could maybe see a scenario in which there's kind of a mid-sized market where you might just be able to just fade the heat for a while and get on with it. But among the things we have to consider, it's not just the civil lawsuits. It's not just the criminal charges, and we don't know how those are going to be resolved. And Chris, you're right. Today is a really important day in that whole scenario. But also, you got the Jolly Roger looming. And I just can't imagine, given all the things that are looming with the National Football League right now, even if he's not found guilty on or liable in all of these civil suits, and even if he doesn't face criminal charges, I just can't imagine a situation in which the Jolly Roger doesn't sit him down for a year.
Coach A, we're all about football here on the Chris Duel Show, especially on a Friday when we're talking to you. But the big story today is that the MLB is back. Games will be played beginning April 7th. I wanted to get your thoughts now that these negotiations are over and gauge where you are on the excitement level that the MLB season is going to get underway.
Look, I'll take what I can get, and I do want there to be a baseball season, and I'm glad they got it settled, and I'm glad they salvaged a 162-game regular season. That's all great. But was it really worth it? I mean, couldn't they have waited until today to settle so it would have been an even 100 days? 99 just not long enough. And you look at really what they were fighting over, and it's really – it's just ridiculous. It's a complete eye roller. And even some of the things that are happening here, I just don't understand. Universal DH now. So now we have pitchers who can headhunt with impunity everywhere. I don't get that. We're going to have all these teams in the postseason. Baseball used to be the one sport where essentially you won or you sat down. And now we've got this diluted playoff pool and all these ridiculous playoff format scenarios and stuff like that. My suggestion would be, if you're going to do that, why don't you just take 64 teams to the postseason and call it October exuberance?
Coach A, Paul Alexander, October exuberance. I love it. Just a taste of what you get from Paul Alexander at radicallyrational.com. Paul, as you said at the outset, that Chinese, it's called a blessing and a curse. May you live in interesting times. And certainly these are times that call for insight and analysis and thought. And that's what you do a lot of at radicallyrational.com. In addition to sports, you talk about big picture items, but you do a lot of sports as well. For people who have not yet done what I highly recommend they do, go daily to radicallyrational.com. What will people find there?
We got fun stuff. A part of the daily routine is I do a daily video every day that's posted there, a daily news/opinion blog, which is posted there already this morning, and a daily sports opinion blog, which is there. But we also do podcasts, and we're very, very fortunate. I have a wonderful partner, Anthony Pittman, and we produce these at the best podcast production house in America, Game Day Media, here in San Antonio. So we archive all of those podcasts, but we put one in like the lead position. And the one that's on right now is going to sound like kind of a strange subject, but it ended up being fascinating. Just fascinating. We have an interview with the leading cosmetic surgeon in Los Angeles, Dr. Peter Grossman. What's that all about? This is a much heavier and much more interesting topic than you might think, because it involves really saving people's lives in a lot of cases, and in particular, saving burn victims and children, etc. We just recorded one because we can make almost anything fit under the umbrella of Radically Rational. Keith Moreland, Major League Baseball player, Longhorn broadcaster. We recorded one with him about a week ago that'll hit about a week from now. So the whole idea is to have some fun. It's an entertainment product. We take the subject matter seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously. But if we can make each other think a little bit and have a good time, it's well worth it.
It is an outstanding site, and it's just on so many levels. You will benefit and learn and be entertained, and go check out everything that's there for you at radicallyrational.com. Coach A, Paul Alexander, outstanding as always, sir. Thanks for taking the time. Have a great weekend, and we'll do it again next week.
Look forward to it. And actually, I have talked myself into being pretty optimistic about just about everything today. So go to the blog at the website and check it out.
I like it. I can use some optimism, given what's gone on lately with the Cowboys and what's going on in the world. Our thanks to Coach A, Paul Alexander, radicallyrational.com. Quick break coming up. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays. And I noticed our good friend James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame has just joined us, and you can as well on the live video feed via Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Join us there. Lots going on. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Good morning, James Allen. Did a great segment. James was outstanding yesterday on the show, as he always is. All right, let me see here. I may need to make a coffee run. Jason, we all know that baseball season starts in June after the NBA Finals is over. Then NFL training camp starts in July. Good point. Yeah, I do find 162 games pretty darn long. I don't go hardcore into baseball unless there's a big storyline. I enjoy the Astros a lot. I'm a fan. God, I hope they find a way to sign Carlos Correa. Okay, now why is that? Is that muted? Why is that not playing? Unmute site. So
just want to give a shout out to Coach. Good morning, everyone. It's the Chris Duel Show at iHeartRadio. Good morning, everyone. Listening to James Allen, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Just want to give a shout out to Coach Pop, the Hall of Fame basketball coach. It will be the most wins ever. Congratulations, Pop. I know you're going to do it, and you deserve it. And you've done it, developing people on the court and off the
Very cool. James Allen, we got your message. We will certainly play that on the air. Yeah, James, we're going to play that just after 8 o'clock this morning. I just saw from Shannon. That's great. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, John, I see that. I can't. It's an NPR audio you sent me. I have a hard time playing that during the show to see what that is. So, I click on it. It says the U.S.-Russia partnership has historically been tension-free. So I see that. Yeah, David, I think probably a lot of what Major League Baseball does is they hope that it benefits the Yankees. I can certainly see that. Oh, I got to check something real quick. Here we go. Woo! Little Prince for you in the morning. When Doves Cry. Thank you, Jeremy Kolok. Can't get enough Prince. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. We are moments away from Shannon's Salty Shakedown. You can leave us a message, and we got one, and we'll play it for you, and there's more coming. You go to the all-free iHeartRadio app. You can listen to the show. It's always crystal clear when you listen on the iHeartRadio app. You then go to either of the radio stations, AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760. And while you're listening, there's a red microphone button. It's so easy. You press that button. You can leave a message. Send it to us. We get it instantly. We just got one. We'll play it here in just a little bit. And you can talk to us instantly. And one of the virtues of that is if you're busy, if you're on your way to work, if you're at work, if you just want to get something off your chest right now, and you don't want to call us up on the phone lines, although we enjoy that, 800-707-9760. But you want to talk to us instantly, use that talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. Somebody you may have heard of left us a message. We'll play that for you coming up. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. But first, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? March 11th, 1892, the first public basketball game was played in Springfield, Massachusetts. What does that mean? There were private basketball games? I mean, that's the way it's written. The first public basketball game was played on this day in 1892 in Springfield, Massachusetts. So I guess you could say happy birthday basketball today. On this day in 1986, the NFL adopted the instant replay rule. Yes, kids, there was once a time before 1986, there was no instant replay, and you'd be watching a game, and there'd be a horrible call, and you'd see the replay, and there was nothing you could do about it. So thank goodness for instant replay. This day in 2020, 2 years ago tonight, I remember it well, the NFL suspended the 2019-2020 season until further notice after Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID-19. And that was kind of the shot heard around America that really made us realize this COVID thing was serious and things were about to change in our lives. And it all began on this night 2 years ago in 2020. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Speaking of baseball, as we now know, baseball will be played opening day, April 7th. Born on this day in 1945, baseball pitcher Doc Ellis. Doc Ellis is known for throwing a no-hitter on June 12th, 1970. Now, that's a big deal. You throw a no-hitter, but he would later say that he threw that no-hitter on acid. That's right. He dropped acid, LSD, before throwing that no-hitter. He would also participate on some championship games or win a World Series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Doc Ellis passed away in 2008, but he was born on this day in 1945. Born on this day in 1977, Becky Hammon, Spurs assistant coach. Great career with the WNBA. Went to the Olympics with Russia in 2008. First female assistant coach in the NBA. I hope she will be the first female coach in the NBA someday. As we know, she has taken the job at the end of this Spurs season. She will be the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces of the WNBA. Becky Hammon was born in Rapid City, South Dakota. Finally, born on this day in 1993, basketball player, number one overall draft pick of the New Orleans Pelicans in 2012, now a Los Angeles Laker, Anthony Davis. He was born in Chicago, Illinois on this day in 1993. That's your sports history and birthdays. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your weekend Salty Shakedown.
Chris, yesterday you asked about Jackson Mahomes, and we're surprised that there weren't any updates. But I like to give the people what they want. So we've got some Mahomes family updates for you today. Everyone seems to love Patrick Mahomes. The same can't necessarily be said for his younger brother Jackson or his longtime girlfriend turned fiance Brittany Matthews, but she will be fiance no more in the coming days because Mahomes and company are all in Maui. They've all traveled to Hawaii last month. Mahomes, as well as some teammates and friends, were hitting up Vegas for a bachelor weekend, but now they are in Hawaii. And guess who the best man is, Chris?
Travis Kelce.
No, but his girlfriend is part of the wedding party, it would seem, as she's good friends with Brittany. But via Instagram, apparently it's Jackson Mahomes himself. Look, I love that there's some brotherly love, but given what's gone on recently with Jackson and him blaming the media, this, that, and the other, and continuing to post ammo for people to use against him, I hope he behaves himself. I hope he lets Patrick and Brittany shine on their weekend and doesn't somehow make it all about him with like TikToks. Like, before you say I do, Can someone hold my phone? I need to get a video. This is a trending sound. I need to get a video of this at this time. Now, obviously, throughout the season, a pretty big distraction for Patrick Mahomes having to speak to the antics of his fiance and his brother. But now she's going to be his wife. You know, they've been dating together for 9 years. And that was something to be able to claim that he was the boyfriend. And then it was fiance. And then it was baby daddy. But now he's going to be locked down by this woman. Do you think that it'll be for better or for worse, Chris? As far as the antics are concerned at Arrowhead Stadium, not their marriage itself. That part's none of our business.
Well, yeah. Wow, you bring up a whole lot to digest, including Jackson Mahomes. I mean, he makes everything about him. How can he not make Patrick's wedding about him? I think the whole ceremony might be for worse. And by the way, the best man, probably the only time he'll be best at anything, Jackson Mahomes. Best man. Oh, it was best man. Well, okay, well, technically that's true. But Patrick, I mean, and Brittany, I guess, true love is in the eye of the beholder. I guess he sees something in her. So God love him, and I hope it lasts. So is this weekend in Maui? We'll have to look for social media coverage.
It would appear so. Now, you mentioned Travis Kelce, who I'm sure is in attendance. He was part of that bachelor party experience. But we're going to talk about Travis's brother, Jason, who Cowboys fans seem to know him pretty well. He's a longtime center for the Philadelphia Eagles, and following the end of the season, he was contemplating retirement. But via the Eagles' social media yesterday, Jason Kelce released a video. It started out with a camera on a wooden floor. It looked like a porch of some sort, a keg being opened, beer being poured, said beer being brought up to the face of Jason Kelce. He then took lots of sips of it, kind of grossly so, because a lot of beer foam ended up on that beard of his, and that was just not cute to look at. But in the video, he talked about how he may be retiring from his podcast, but he's not retiring from football, that he is returning to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I say all of this because there was some bribing that went on, Chris. Coach Sirianni, at the end of the season, when the Eagles were knocked out of the playoffs, sent Kelce 2 kegs of beer in order to bribe the center to return. He not only mentioned his great play for the team, but the leader that he is and the man that he is and why he is such an integral part of this Eagles team. Listen, I don't like the Eagles, but I do like the Kelce family, and I do like the way this all came about. I thought that was a fun way. We talk a lot about players kind of taking back the narrative of their media, of the media, of what their next choice is going to be. Usually we see it in the form of, yes, I am retiring, or this is the new team that I am going to. I think this might be the first of, hey, I'm not retiring, and coach bribed me not to.
Yeah, and again, it is kind of cool. You mentioned the Kelce brothers and that narrative, and we had the story, in the playoffs their mom going to 2 games on one day
Mhm.
to see each of them play in the playoffs. So, and again, you know, if your body can take another year in the NFL, and I know head collisions and CTE is certainly now a consideration more than ever before. But I mean, you look at the salary NFL players make, and if you've got the income earning potential for another year in the National Football League, there's not a lot of gigs outside of football unless you're some kind of big entrepreneur like Roger Staubach was, or, you know, you can create some other company that you've began in the NFL. So, you know, if I were advising most NFL players, if health-wise you're going to be okay and you can do another year in the NFL, do it. So I think it's probably a good move on his part.
Health-wise, and in the video, Kelsey also said, listen, I'm still having fun. So absolutely, keep doing it. We'll see you twice this year, Mr. Jason Kelsey. All right, someone who else is having fun and can't hear all of those Oklahoma naysayers over the $17.2 million he just dropped on a new home in the Los Angeles area, Lincoln Riley. For comparison, he had a nice home in Norman, Oklahoma. It cost about $1.7 million, but that's nothing in comparison to his new digs, which, by the way, an oceanfront property. Can't get that in Norman. A little more details about the home. It actually has some historical significance in that it was a former mayor's home. So if you are wanting to see the home, there's plenty of inside video and things of that nature because it is considered a historical residence in the area. It's 13,000 square feet, 7 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, a 5-car garage, elevator, 7 fireplaces, a movie theater, tennis court, putting green, sauna, steam room, 600-bottle wine room, and a guest house. Chris, listen, I'm sure it's getting to Lincoln Riley a little bit. The hate he's received from Sooner fans thus far, it's probably only going to get worse. Spring games coming up. That'll be the first time we see that team take the field without Coach Lincoln Riley. And then, of course, the season, I'm sure things will start to heat up again. But he's living the life of luxury, and he's doing it big now that he's in L.A. You got to feel like he feels pretty good about himself right now.
And I got a text overnight from one of my, USC friends, a fellow alum, and apparently the neighborhood is Rancho Palos Verdes,
yes,
which is a really swanky neighborhood. In fact, it was in Palos Verdes. That was the area where Tiger Woods had his accident, actually, a year ago, just over a year ago. But this friend of mine said, it's a bit of a step up from Norman, Oklahoma, as you mentioned as well. I mean, beachfront, Palos Verdes, of all, and again, I am hoping that Lincoln Riley, comparing where he is, it utilizes this whole Hollywood thing in recruiting compared to places like Norman, Oklahoma. And I've always thought, Shannon, Austin, Texas, a very cool place, obviously. I've always thought that places like Texas and USC really need to utilize what they've got versus Norman, Oklahoma, or Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And, hopefully, if he's living the life, hopefully Lincoln Riley's going to, kind of spread that wealth among recruits and hopefully to return USC to where they should be.
Well, you mentioned the Palos Verdes area where this house is. I don't know if you're familiar. It was formerly the home of first mayor of Palos Verdes, Fred Rossler, which is why it's got that historical significance. And there's so many videos available of it. And I think you're right. I think bring recruits to see USC in LA, but also show them the life you have there and kind of the extracurriculars they can experience just by hanging out with Coach Lincoln Riley. I mean, that movie room, the number of bathrooms alone, I'm looking at one with the biggest tub I've ever seen. And me, who, I love my night wine, 600 bottles of night wine doesn't sound too bad either. It's a beautiful piece of property. If you haven't seen it, just Google search it. It'll pop up pretty quickly. But there it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
And I will do that. Great Salty Shakedown, as always. Outstanding. But yeah, I had heard of the home, but I haven't yet Googled it and searched it. But I will do that. And you bring up an interesting point. I mean, I imagine you could do, when you're recruiting, obviously, the player comes onto the campus. So, you see the facilities. And now, almost every big school now does those photos of the players in the uniform running out of the tunnel so they can put that on their social media. There's no NCAA restriction of the coach bringing the recruit to the house, right? So they could come hang out, see the ocean view, watch some game films or a recruiting video in the movie room at Coach Riley's house. Again, if he's smart, he turns that into an asset for recruiting, I would think.
Absolutely. It's one of the few things that Tom Herman did right with his time at Texas. He had current players as well as, some recruits on some of those recruiting weekends come to his house, enjoy the pool, they would barbecue, and they'd also bring in some of the better known food trucks from the Austin area to come hang out and make some food for him. So if you got it, use it to your advantage.
Amen. I absolutely agree with that. And one of your shakedown, I still got to digest it and look for it over the weekend. The Patrick Mahomes wedding to Brittany Matthews in Maui this weekend with Jackson Mahomes as the best man. I don't know. I'm trying to think of another athlete that was ever married to someone where we really just don't like her. Or vice versa, and then you add in the brother Jackson. I can't think of another dynamic like this for an athlete previously that we got. And Patrick Mahomes is such a likable guy. I mean, that's it's one thing if they were both, it's like A-Rod and J-Lo, kind of a power couple, both kind of all into themselves. But Patrick Mahomes seems like just such a good guy, and these two seem like knuckleheads, Brittany and Jackson, to me.
The Kardashians come to mind. But those relationships with their specific basketball player, boyfriends, former husbands, whatever, were not very long lived. So
yeah, that's a good comp. The Kardashians. All right, coming up, lots to talk about. We'll talk more NFL, college hoops, baseball is back. We will hear our mystery, message. I was going to say caller, but it wasn't a call. It was a message on the iHeartRadio app that you can leave us as well. Mystery message, something like that. We'll hear it. It's pretty cool. You'll want to hear it as well. Don't go anywhere. We are with you till 9. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He is Jeremy Kolok. Thanks for hanging out on the Chris Duel Show. Louisa says, I went to all Spurs championships. Cool. And yes, I had beer spilled all over me and was jumping and screaming, and I loved it. Very exciting. I don't know what else Brittany has said or done, but just spraying champagne all over you is not insulting me. It's part of winning and being excited. All right. Louisa, little advocate, putting in a good word for and defending Brittany Matthews. It is not Dylan Emery, but a good guess. It is a friend of the show. You'll hear him or her here in a moment. Okay. I'm going to make one more coffee run. So just that audio, just crossfade at the top, and we'll just play it, and then we'll come in after that. Thanks. Sam Tobias with some inside information. I'll be back. Gail, welcome in. Got an 8 o'clock meeting. Thank you. Happy weekend, Gail. Thanks for being with us. Jeremy, your mother says get some sleep. I passed that along to Jeremy. That's very good motherly advice. Yeah, Louisa, finally, since the Pete Carroll era, I've been waiting for USC to start playing big and doing things. I mean, they've got the money. They make a lot of money with their athletic department. Do it. So I'm, for so long, after Reggie Bush nearly destroyed the program, they weren't doing this. And I think Texas, Texas has the same, very similar virtues. Great city, great culture, great brand. Now a very cool, hip head coach. And ironically, a guy who coached at USC. Neil Cole. That's it, I guess. All right, let's see. I've always wondered, but why did you I didn't know that you get 3 minutes of Dan Patrick. Neil, are you listening to Ticket 760 or AM 1300 The Zone? Because what Shannon and I are hearing is not what you're hearing over the air in either station. We got this music in the background. So Neil, let me know if you're listening to AM 1300 The Zone out of Austin or Ticket 760 out of San Antonio, and we will let our bosses know that. That's not supposed to happen. Although I like Dan Patrick and I listen on the way home. So I guess 3 minutes of Dan Patrick is probably good. But that does kind of suck for people who think, oh, I'm kind of enjoying this, the subject matter, 1300. Okay. Thanks for that. So that's where Shannon is, as you probably know, Neil. So she will check into that. Here we come. What we're going to do here is crossfade out of the intro music to the speech by James Earl Jones, a.k.a. Terrence Mann, from Field of Dreams. Yeah, Neil, that's not supposed to happen. And part of what makes things tricky, it's kind of complicated to run, one radio show with two locations, Shannon in Austin and me in San Antonio, and to coordinate, different commercials on each station and, different elements on each station and to make it work. So I do believe that the Dan Patrick thing is just kind of slipping through the cracks. Thank you, man. We appreciate your kind words and we appreciate your listening, and we appreciate you listening when, we got some technical issues that you've got to endure. But I do like Dan Patrick, and I am a listener when this show ends. All right, here we come. Thanks for that, Neil. That's going to help us kind of address that and see what the heck's going on. All right, we are going to crossfade into James Earl Jones here in a minute. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
Ray, people will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have and peace they like.
Ray, just sign the papers.
And they'll walk out to the bleachers. Sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game. And it'll be as if they'd dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick, they'll have to brush them away from their faces.
Ray, when the bank opens in the morning, they'll foreclose.
People will come, Ray.
You're broke, Ray. You sell now or you lose everything.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
People will come if you build it. He will come. They will come. Baseball is back. James Earl Jones playing the role of Terrence Mann in my favorite movie ever, Field of Dreams. Shannon, I just thought baseball is back. I had to play what I think is the greatest baseball speech in motion picture history. Little James Earl Jones from Field of Dreams as we start the 8 o'clock hour. Thank goodness baseball is back.
Still a motion picture I have yet to see. Sorry.
I will get you. I'll get you the DVD.
Sorry.
I get like all kinds of DVD. You'll like. You'll see. And then, like anything that you've heard a lot about, you're going to see it and go, meh. But I love it. It's my favorite. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass this along. Jason Garcia on the live video feed says, please mention that regarding SAFC and Austin FC. Austin is going for 3-0 this weekend, which is absolutely remarkable. Shannon will talk about that. And Jason mentioning in San Antonio FC is opening their season at home at Toyota Field this weekend. San Antonio FC is the Las Vegas favorite to win the Western Conference of their league and a top 3 favorite to win it all. How cool would that be, Jason Garcia? Thanks for that. And Shannon, I am loving, he mentions Austin FC. We talked about it, 10 goals in their first 2 games. They're 2-0. They're making a lot of noise and looking like maybe they're off to what could be a magical season for them.
Yeah, where he just said, SAFC, a lot of pundits said, they'd have a pretty good season. They think they're going to finish very high in the rankings, while Austin FC, a lot of folks peg them to finish near the bottom, if not the bottom of the MLS, but they've started the season 2-0. They're playing away this weekend. It's going to be a late start for them, 9 p.m. Central, as they are playing in Portland against the Timbers, who are usually a pretty solid team. So it'll be a test. We'll have to see. A lot of people right now, there's a lot of discussion of, well, maybe it's just the scheduling because Miami is still a newer group that got put together. Maybe that's why they were able to win that one. But I believe in the Verde and Listos. Let's go. Let's do it this weekend. Let's get another one. Let's go 3-0.
Very, very cool. So much going on this weekend, Shannon. The Mahomes wedding in Maui. Lots of college basketball action. Oh, and we got to mention what happened to the Longhorns last night. TCU Longhorns were up big, and TCU came from way back to knock them off. Not good. Not good last night.
Chris, I love this time of year because with baseball and college basketball tournaments, like I have an excuse to just watch sports in the middle of the day and call it work. So yesterday, Texas tipped at 11:30 against TCU in game 1. They got the bye. So it was the quarterfinals of the Big 12 tournament. And points were coming at a premium for a while in that first half, and it was tied up for a little bit at 16-16, but then Texas started to pull away. So much so that going into halftime, they had an 18-point lead on TCU. They were getting shots to fall. They were playing excellent defense. It looked like they had it in the bag as long as they changed nothing. And for whatever reason, they seem to have changed everything coming out in the second half because they went away from the shots that were working. They were trying to get fouls and get sent to the line more. Those shots weren't falling. It just was, I mean, kind of a classic Texas collapse, if you ask me, with TCU eventually shortening that leash. I mean, it was 18, then it was 14, then it was 12. All of a sudden, it's single digits, and then TCU gets the lead. It goes back and forth for a little bit, but ultimately TCU got the win to knock the defending Big 12 tournament champs out of the tournament. And this is the time, as we say, when you need to get hot. And, you can sit here and say, look, it's the Big 12 tournament. It's not the one that matters. But things need to be turned around, and guys need to have the discipline to keep up that style of play we saw in the first half come next week and the start of official March Madness and the tournament that does matter, because it's not going to be good for the Horns and Chris Beard if they are not able to get over the hump of just winning one game in the tournament.
Wow, and I'm looking at the box score, Shannon. That second half, TCU outscores number 22 Texas 43-20. More than doubled them up, 43-20. That is Longhorn scored 40 points in the first half, 20 points in the second half. That's number slashed in half. So, yeah, I mean, gosh, sure looks like a collapse in the second half. You, Shannon, as a huge Longhorns fan and alum, Chris Beard, is this like same old for Texas? How much pressure do you think there is on Chris Beard now, as you mentioned, Selection Sunday coming up on Sunday, the NCAA tournament coming? How much pressure, especially with this performance against TCU in the Big 12 tournament, what kind of pressure on him and this team to make some noise, win a few games, go at least as deep as expected, if not deeper than expected in the NCAA tournament?
There's got to be a lot of pressure. I mean, just the tournament alone, it doesn't really matter who your opponent is, because we've seen high seeds knock out lower seeds. And so that team just needs to come as prepared as possible and kind of play how they started this season, which was really strong, especially for a group of guys that is a mix of so many transfers and guys like Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones, who have been around the program for a very long time. I think Chris Beard isn't the kind of guy to let the pressure and outside noise get to him. I think that's been obvious with all of the trash talk he's received throughout the season, but it's gonna start getting to him if they're not able to make it past the first round in this tournament.
All right. Speaking of tournament, maybe we'll figure that out this weekend. We got to figure out, we want to create some kind of a bracket competition among not only ourselves, but our listeners. So we will look at that this weekend, and maybe, and then you add all the things going on this weekend. As SCOTT MANDZIARA told us in the 6 o'clock hour, you got 139 baseball free agents, most of which will probably find a team this weekend, including Carlos Correa. So the Carlos Correa noise is going to happen, and the decision is going to come. And, I pray to God that, I know it's unlikely in most people's view, but I pray to God the Astros find a way to keep Carlos Correa, and we should get the answer to that this weekend. Shannon, we've been talking about it. A very, very cool feature on the iHeartRadio app, which is free, the free iHeartRadio app. For people who don't know about it, Shannon, tell us about it, how it works, and somebody left us a message this morning.
So many people use the iHeartRadio app to listen to us in crystal clear surround sound, especially when they're in the car. You put that on and use your Bluetooth. It's the way to go, if you ask me. And now there's an awesome new feature called Talkback. All you do, you press that little microphone button that you'll now see by the station you're listening to, and you'll have 30 seconds to record a message, and it'll come to us instantly. We only have the ability to record and grab and listen to those messages during our breaks on the Chris Duel Show. So if you want us to hear something going into the weekend, if you've got any thoughts, go ahead and try that out here within the next 10 minutes, and we'll try to get it during the break and see if we've got any for that last segment of today. But we did get one message just an hour ago. I'm sure you'll recognize the voice, but he wanted to go into the weekend with some good vibes for Coach Pop and the Spurs.
Good morning, everyone, at the Chris Duel Show and iHeartRadio. Good morning, everyone listening. This is James Allen, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Just want to give a shout out to Coach Pop, the Hall of Fame basketball coach, who will be the most wins ever. Congratulations, Pop. I know you're going to do it, and you deserve it, and you've done it, developing people on the court and off the court.
Very cool, James Allen. And we haven't talked a lot about it this morning. And by the way, as Shannon mentioned, you can do what James just did. Leave a message. We'll hear it instantly. We'll play it in all probability on the air. Anything that's on your mind, something we're talking about, you want to sound off on a sports issue, suggestion for the show, something you heard that you liked, something you heard that you didn't like, criticisms, constructive criticism, rants, name calling, whatever you're into. We'd like to hear it. But I don't know that Spurs fans, and maybe they do, Shannon, but it's such a cool milestone, and Spurs fans have led such a charmed existence throughout this Greg Popovich tenure. And as was pointed out this week as well, you go back to 1999, that strike-shortened season, and the Spurs stumbled out of the gate at sub 500. There were fans and writers calling for Greg Popovich's head. There's word that the Spurs may have considered letting him go because they had a really, really good roster that was underperforming. And to go from maybe the brink of losing his job to winning a championship that year in 1999 and just building this dynasty. And so much of it, Shannon, it was on the court and off the court for Greg Popovich. There was a moment after Tim Duncan's rookie contract was up. Doc Rivers was the head coach of the Orlando Magic. He had Grant Hill, who was a friend of Tim's. Tim and his wife at the time, Amy, went to Orlando. They were touring a neighborhood, I think, that Tiger Woods owned a house in that had its own lake and was just beautiful. And apparently, as the story goes, one of the issues was Tim Duncan asked Doc Rivers, can family travel on the airplane to road games? And the Spurs let that happen. And Doc goes, oh, no. You can't do that. That was not a good thing for Tim. But one of the things that Pop did, David Robinson was vacationing in Hawaii at the time, and Pop had, I think it was Peter Holt's jet, go pick up David Robinson, fly him into San Antonio to have a meeting with David Robinson. But clearly one of the reasons Tim Duncan stayed, and he would say this later, was his relationship with Greg Popovich. Once Tim was drafted out of Wake Forest, Pop went and met with Tim in the Virgin Islands, established a relationship with him. So I think it's not only just being a great coach, I think it's the relationship that he established with players. We got a phone call, Shannon, and we love getting phone calls at 800-707-9760. It's a good friend of the show, and he does a lot of Spurs analysis on multiple Spurs podcasts, and we've had him on Spurs React as well. Wes Perkins. Hey, Wes, what's on your mind this morning?
Good morning, Shannon. Good morning, Chris, Jeremy. Hey, I heard you talking about this, and I had to just share this. I've been thinking about this for a little while. that, the whole super team idea is starting to come, I think, to a close. And, what you're starting to realize is many Spurs fans that you talked about, maybe we just live that charmed, spoiled life. But more than anything else, I think what you're going to find is more people going back to the blueprint that made the Spurs successful, which is smart and 100% doing your job to understand what kind of players you can get, both foreign and in the draft. And the fact that, you even talk about a DJ who's an all-star but was picked number 29, a Keldon who was number 29, all these guys that have been in that end of the draft just shows, again, what the Spurs do right and that the lack of patience that the rest of the league shows from time to time. That's why, more than anything else, it means a lot for Pop to get this record, because it's not just a record for him. It's a record for RC. It's a record for the whole family. It's a record for the Spurs franchise.
Well, and Wes, one of the things I just love about Pop and the Spurs and the culture of the Spurs, I think the NBA more than any other league is about ego. Look at Steph Curry, and he's the greatest, but there's a whole lot of ego involved. And most NBA players, they have been the man ever since like middle school. A lot of them wound up, going to super teams in high school, in like AAU basketball. A lot of them now are one and dones. And a lot of them, it's about themselves. And, Pop, and I think part of this goes back to his Air Force Academy training. Pop, it's kind of like going into the military if you're going to go play for the Spurs, and you've got to get over yourself. And he uses that terminology. You got to get over yourself and be about the team and not necessarily about yourself. And, as I quote it all the time, we heard the quote that whenever the Spurs make a personnel decision, one of the question is he a Spur? And we know what that means. PJ Carlissimo revealed that to Bill Schoening in an interview once. Can this athlete, be a team player and not be about ego and not be about himself and get over himself and play the system that we created and live in the culture that we created? And Wes, you don't see a lot of that in the NBA today. And you may not ever see it again, because it takes courage to run an organization the way Pop and RC have, and B, it takes success. And if you don't have success early these days in the NBA, they will blow you out in a league more than ever where the players seem to have all the power.
Well, and one more take, guys. I think personally, maybe I'm in the minority of Spurs fans. I don't know. But I think that this season is a success. No matter what you do going forward, I want them to be in the play-in game. Sure, doesn't anybody. But the fact of the matter is, you have a great young core nucleus that you finally have an idea maybe who and where to go from. And you've got an all-star with which to draw some people into your franchise again. Now you've got 3 first-round draft picks. That doesn't happen just overnight. And you talk about the lack of ego. Think about James Harden and what's going on right now. Philly and Brooklyn playing each other last night. Would you put your money on either one of those 2 franchises to win a title in the next 5 years? I wouldn't. Because again, you're talking about guys who are doing things for themselves and hoping that accumulates into something that's going to win as a team versus a team concept. And if I'm Utah or I'm Phoenix or I'm San Antonio, I'm laughing behind the scenes because I'm looking at the way that they're doing their operations. And I just know that's set up for long term. Whereas what's happening right now still in the super team complex, it's failing. And it was set up for the short term and it's not even working.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Wes. And just because we are on the Spurs topic of conversation, we haven't hit it quite yet today, Chris. We are asking on Twitter, AM13 Zone Ticket 760, when will Coach Pop get the NBA regular season wins record? And it's kind of split right now, Chris. I'm a little surprised. We've got 37% voting for tonight versus the Jazz, and that's where my vote went, just because those games have been close this season. So I do think it is pretty likely that they could get that win tonight. 43% saying it'll take place tomorrow night against the Pacers. 12% saying Monday versus the Timberwolves. And other you tell us, we've got 6 votes. So I guess they just don't believe that it's going to be coming as quickly as Spurs Nation would like. But I got to agree that this season overall, looking from where the Spurs have been the past couple of years, you got to consider it a success, especially when you add that Coach Pop is going to get this record. I think it's a good foundation for where it seems like they're going in the near future.
Yeah, I thought that was a very astute point by Wes. So many Spurs fans will look at the record right now and not think it's a success. And we're so spoiled by all those years of success. Spurs are 25-41 right now. That's percentage 379. They are 28 games out of first place. Phoenix Suns in first place in the Western Conference. These numbers would have been unheard of in the Tim Duncan era. But like Wes and like you, Shannon, I look at this team and I look at the talent on this team and I see how hard and how well this team plays night in and night out. And they don't often get blown out. They've lost leads in games, but fought down to the wire and often might lose late in single digits. And you look at the rosters of teams that they're playing, often laden with NBA All-Stars. I just think they're up and coming. I think they're ahead of schedule, even though the record might not indicate that. And the other thing that Wes pointed out, the fact that they managed to, now they're holding 3 first-round draft picks, which either A, you can make those first-round draft picks this year in the NBA, or you can package 1, 2, or 3 of them in a trade to go get a veteran player or maybe a star or an asset to help your team. So, yeah, I think that was a tremendous phone call, and clearly you get an idea now why Wes Perkins does a lot of analysis on multiple podcasts out there, and why we love him on the show. Way to go, Wes. Coming up, lots more to talk about, including Wes brought up James Harden and the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers playing last night. We will talk about that. Another great point, that the era of the super team may be ending. So we'll get into that. Khalil Mack to the San Diego Chargers. Coach A. Paul Alexander brought that up a little bit earlier, but we'll dive back into that. Of course, Jerry Jones, what's going on with the Cowboys organization? Lots more to cover, and what a big weekend in sports, from Selection Sunday in the NCAA to baseball and all the free agency, and probably we find out maybe today where Carlos Correa and a lot of other free agents are heading in Major League Baseball. We'll touch upon all that coming right up. We are with you till 9. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok makes the show go. It's the Chris Duel Show. Yes, great call. And what Louisa says here, as Shannon and I were reacting to it, I mean, you made point after point after point that were outside the box points, which I thought were spot on, including the era of the super team may be coming to an end because it's not been successful in LA with Kawhi. Forming a super team with LeBron and the Lakers, with the Brooklyn Nets. So great stuff there. James Allen, we started it off with your message, James. If you're still in here, that was just a great message and got us on this pop Spurs topic. So good morning to Frank Ramirez. Good morning to everybody in here. But Wes, call as often as you like, man. We love your phone calls. Let's see. I killed all my coffee. I got iced tea, but no ice. That ain't good. I'm going to go get some ice. I would love, Jorge, I would love to see the Texas Rangers come back and make some noise. And I think I love it when the Astros and the Rangers are very, very good. Okay, let me see here. All right, I'll be back in a sec. I'm just grabbing some ice for my Gold Peak unsweetened iced tea. We'll give you some more Jeremy. this out. I'm gonna take this out. I need ice. Back in the set.
Last year, Lowe's completed 100 impact projects in communities across the United States as part of 100 hometowns. Lowe's is making its largest ever commitment to give back to the communities it serves. Over the next 5 years, Lowe's will invest $100 million in community impact projects for those in need. Nominate your hometown project in need by March 28th. Visit Lowe's.com/hometowns to learn more or follow us at #Lowe'sHometowns.
Jake from State Farm here. Some other car insurance companies are increasing their rates in your state. But don't worry. If your bill's gone up, switch to State Farm for surprisingly great rates. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or visit statefarm.com for a quote today.
James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame said that was a great phone call by Wes. Woo! Pretty good accolades. Maxwell is back. Maxwell, the current Tankathon mock draft, has the Spurs drafting Keegan Murray at number 7. That would be a great ad. Pull up Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray out of Iowa, small forward. 21 years old. First team All-American, first team All-Big Ten, Big Ten All-Freshman team. Wow, 27 points per game and almost 10 rebounds. 27 and 10. That would be nice. Wes Perkins on the tail end of spring break. Kids and wife have theirs next week. That is too bad, man, that those spring breaks are split up in your family like that. Uber Eats delivery. Wow. So you're like Bill Schoening, man. You can have some days off, but you're working. Well, if you do it today, the weather looks awful. Looks like it was raining when I came into work. Let's see what the current forecast is. I just want springtime. Light rain forecast. 80% chance at 9 o'clock, 50% chance at 11, and then just cloudy and windy, and the temperature's going down. 44 now, 41 this afternoon. Yikes.
It's the Chris Duel Show. 79760.
Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, like so many people, you as well, I imagine, on Carlos Correa watch. And something I've noticed on Twitter, you got to be careful because there's fake accounts out there. I just pulled up an account that it's the Baltimore Orioles, and it says, we have signed Carlos Correa to a 10-year, $350 million contract, and it's bogus. It's a fake account. And I'm like, oh, damn. And like, then upon further review, okay, that's a fake account. So, I mean, while you're looking for information, and of course, all of this is triggered by Major League Baseball coming to an agreement yesterday and overnight. So they end the 99-day lockout, and we now know that Major League Baseball's opening day will be April 7th. So many of us are Houston Astros fans, and even if you're not, he's one of the biggest prizes in free agency. So it's a big Major League Baseball story, even if you're not an Astros fan. And if you're not an Astros fan, you're probably hoping your team will sign Carlos Correa. So Shannon, certainly something to keep an eye on today. And if we don't get an answer today, maybe keep an eye on it all weekend.
Yeah, and that's what I plan to do. I plan to be stuck at the house this weekend because, Chris, we now have opening day for baseball. It is opening day for South by Southwest here in Austin, and that just means it's going to be crazy everywhere, and I don't want to deal with it.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't even realize South by was starting today. That's unbelievable. So much going on. And when does the Lakers series that's on HBO Max? We've seen episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Sunday nights? When does the new one drop?
I think they're Sunday nights.
I see that.
Which means I'm a Monday watcher.
Yeah. Oh, and we're hearing, no surprise here, Jerry West is not happy with his portrayal in episode 1 and in that series, apparently.
Is he not happy because, as they portray, he's just an angry dude, and so naturally he's not happy? Or is he not happy because he's not that angry of a dude with an alcohol problem and a tension to, like, throw things out of glass windows, and he doesn't like that he's being portrayed that way?
I've heard, I was listening, and again, Dan Patrick was brought up earlier today. Apparently Dan Patrick is very close friends with Jerry West and has had him on the show a lot. And apparently friends of Jerry West see him more as passionate. They see him as very, very passionate and not necessarily as angry and vile as he is being portrayed, at least in episode 1 of, was it Winning Time? What's the name of that?
Winning Time.
Showtime?
Winning Time.
Winning Time. Thank you.
I've read Jerry West's book a long time ago, and I recommend it. I think
Okay.
it gives good insight into why he is the way that he is and kind of his upbringing. He had a tough upbringing, and he probably does have anger issues or somewhat of anger control issues. But if you learn a little bit about how he got to where he got, I feel like you understand it. You understand him a little bit more at the very least.
Well, and you bring that up, and I heard the story on the Dan Patrick show yesterday, Jeremy, that Jerry West, when he was growing up, his dad was very abusive, and his dad used to beat up his mom a lot. And that one night, Jerry West went to bed with a shotgun in his bed, and he said, if it happens again, I'm killing him. I'm going to just kill my dad. My God. He grew up in East Bank, West Virginia. So it's so weird because, I'm so old. I remember Jerry West playing for the Lakers and winning that championship in 72. Now, he lost all those games to the Celtics. I mean, they went like 6 years in a row against the Celtics and lost. So he was obviously there was a lot of angst there. And as most people know, he is the logo. That logo you see in the NBA logo is the silhouette of Jerry West. But I never I never read the book, and I never dove deep into his life like you have. So what I'm seeing in this portrayal of Winning Time is kind of a surprise to me. It's pretty amazing.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I would like to see if maybe if Jerry's character evolves at all a little bit. Because I was listening to that interview too, and the guy who plays Jerry West, I mean, he just seemed elated to be playing Jerry West. And I was just thinking, like, obviously this guy's seen the script of the future episodes. Like, maybe he's excited because there's a big turning point for Jerry in the series or something.
Yeah, because if you're an accomplished actor, you want a character's arc. The best characters in any story go through a transformation and they grow. That's a great question to see what happens with Jerry West. And again, to also have it be reminded of the fact that you did not want Magic Johnson, which we learned in episode 1. He wanted Sidney Moncrief. And not Magic. And Jerry West is considered not only to have been a great player, but to have been a great executive. That's his biggest moment of being wrong. So that he can't be happy that he's being reminded of that.
No. Yeah, I agree with Jeremy of like the character thing, and it'll be interesting to see. And then also like Jerry West, how much did these people that they're portraying have either a say or a no into what's going on? Because what if he does have that character arc, right? And where and maybe we even get to the point where he becomes a more likable human being on screen. What does Jerry have to say for that? Come on, Jerry, let it breathe a little bit.
Great question.
Let it be out for a couple more episodes than just one.
Jeremy was mentioning the actor, Jason Clarke is the actor who plays Jerry West. And Shannon, he was on Dan Patrick's show yesterday following us. And was it Australian? I mean, it always amazes me when an actor is playing an American and has like a state-of-the-art English accent, in this case, a West Virginia accent. And you listen to the guy and he's got like this deep Australian accent.
He is, yeah.
If that's what he is.
He is.
But so I'm amazed at actors' ability to just nail an accent, especially if it's like traditional English Americanized accent, and their normal way of speaking is so different. It always blows my mind.
I love the way that they're shooting this series too, and that it feels like you're watching it unfold as it is, right? We're so
Yeah.
used to the 4K HD, and it's got kind of that old camcorder feel to it. It does make it seem
Yes.
like you're living in that moment as it happens, which for me is exciting
Yeah.
because I
And
was
and
not
as
around for it.
yes. Well, and again, even like Jerry Buss, as I followed the Lakers. I saw interviews with Jerry Buss, and he was all right. A lot of money, bought the Lakers. I had no idea the backstory and the way they do that character with the way he breaks the third wall and he's looking to the camera and talking to you as the viewer as he's progressing in episode 1, going through to buy the Lakers from Jack Kent Cook. It's just I thought I'd like it, and and as I mentioned, and we'll try to get him on the show. I've interviewed Jeff Pearlman, who wrote the original book. So the filmmakers optioned the book and then turned the book into this series. So I knew it would be interesting. And Jeff Pearlman's written books about the Dallas Cowboys. He's written a book about Roger Clemens. He's written a book about Brett Favre. He wrote a book about the United States Football League, the USFL. He's a former Sports Illustrated writer, brilliantly talented writer. So I thought, all right, this is going to be good. I liked it exponentially more than I expected to like it. It is very entertaining. And the fact that this is all based on fact, and obviously some things are changed here and there or embellished. They even say it in the opening credits. But the fact that these people, and we know the Lakers and Magic Johnson and Kareem and Norm Nixon, the guy that Magic would replace, it's great. It's great entertainment, especially for sports fans. It's a lot of fun.
When Jason on our live video feed said you can't call the show Showtime on HBO because obviously Showtime may rival of HBO, but I'm also wondering, the book is called Winning Time, and I wonder if when that book was written he had to go with Winning Time instead of Showtime because I guess the Lakers probably own that, right? And probably a lot of money to be paid out for that, and I don't know what the Lakers as an organization are thinking. Jeannie Buss is obviously a huge part of the Lakers, and she was featured in episode 1 as a younger girl. So I don't know if maybe there's just money involved on top of the fact that their rival network was or is Showtime.
You bring up the Jeannie Buss character is tremendous as well. Because again, I just assumed you're Jeannie Buss. You're the daughter of Dr. Jerry Buss. You inherited the team. I mean, you just assume you didn't work for it. And her character demonstrates she like goes to her dad and says, I want to work for you. I want to do this. And he starts asking her some questions, and she clearly does her homework and knows what she's talking about in the realm of basketball. That's cool as well. And as we now know, subsequently, those kids of Jerry Buss were rivals and didn't get along and had their issues. So we're probably going to see the beginnings of that as well.
Yeah. And to know where Jeannie is now with that organization, because the show does not shy away from workplace environment specifically for females during that era. And she was thrown into it pretty young and pretty early.
Good points. So, all right, Shannon, we talked about it. Winning Time dropping on Sunday, Selection Sunday this weekend. Austin FC in a big game. Baseball free agency all weekend long. Conference tournaments. Crazy, crazy weekend of sports viewing. What are you looking forward to most this weekend?
Definitely Austin FC if I can manage to stay up, because again, a nighttime start of 9:00, even though it is a Saturday, is going to be a late one for me. Selection Sunday, always fun. I love seeing the videos of the team's reactions for where they get picked. I'll be interested to see who wins the Big 12 tournament. I won't be as involved in Texas baseball. I'm not quite sure who they're playing this weekend for their series, but I'm looking for them to get back on track after dropping a game to Texas State during the week this week.
Yeah, and I rattled off everything going on this weekend. I didn't even mention 2 Spurs games, and Pop may get the record tonight or tomorrow night. Jeremy, what's on your agenda, and what's the big sports thing that you look forward to most this weekend?
Well, first of all, I just want to say this over the airwaves. Not that this is breaking any news or anything, but spring training starts today, and that is what I'm most excited about, just because of the timing. And I like you mentioned, I just want to say I bought like an old AM radio it came
That's
in the other
great.
day that I'm really excited about because I listen normally on my like Alexa or whatever, but I wanted to start listening to the great Bill Schoening on the call on News Radio 1200 WOAI down the hall, which starts tonight, obviously, for me on my new AM radio.
Cool.
So I'll be listening to you and Bill. I know it comes in crystal clear on the iHeart app, but it's just something about that old school sound that, yeah, I'm really excited about that. So with the Spurs radio game night tonight at 7 p.m.
Yes. Thank you for
Be a
pimping the
fun one.
broadcast. Cool. Well, Jeremy, great job as always, all week long. Found out that you're a big Elvis fan this week. I had no idea. That's even cooler. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, spectacular as always. We're going to know a lot. Correa, NCAAs. Monday's going to be a big show.
It's going to be busy. Enjoy the weekend.
Everybody have a great weekend. Be safe. Fasten your seatbelts for a big sports weekend, and we will be all over all the developments on Monday morning. See you on Monday. Hasta la vista. Thanks, everybody. Louisa, Jason, Jorge, Maxwell, Wes, James Allen, Beth Settle, Neil Cole, Frank Valdez. I'm scrolling backwards. I won't get everybody's name, but just some that I see. We do appreciate everybody. Jason Garcia. Gail already left. Dean Stone. Sam Tobias. John Williams. Thanks for being here. I will be on. We do a video like this for Spurs React tonight after the game. Hopefully we'll be celebrating Pop. That'll probably be about 10:15 tonight, 10:10, unless there's overtime. So hopefully we'll be celebrating a big Spurs win tonight. Y'all have a great weekend. See you soon.